My name is Olivia Parker, and for the longest time, I convinced myself that I was fine. I told myself I had moved on, that life in Chicago was enough with work, friends, and weekend routines. But sometimes, you don't realize how fragile that sense of fine really is until something, or someone, shakes it apart. For me, that night came in the middle of February, when the city streets were still slick with snow and the air was sharp with cold. It had been an ordinary day. I worked late at the design firm where I was part of the creative team, stayed behind to finish sketches for a new campaign, and left the office exhausted. My plan was simple. Grab takeout, curl up in my apartment, and forget the world for a few hours. I wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary. But fate rarely asks for permission. When I stepped out of the train station, I nearly bumped into someone I hadn't seen in years. Daniel Reed. He was standing by the entrance, his breath visible in the cold air, his hands tucked into the pockets of a worn leather jacket. "Olivia," he said. His voice a mix of surprise and something else, something softer. I froze. Daniel and I had gone to high school together in Chicago. Back then, he was the boy who sat behind me in math class, the one who always doodled in the margins of his notebook. We'd been friends for a while, close, even, but after graduation, life pulled us in different directions. I went to college in Boston, he stayed back, and eventually we lost touch. Now years later here he was. "Daniel? Wow. It's been forever." My voice cracked with disbelief. He laughed lightly, shaking his head. "I can't believe it's you. What are the odds?" At first, it felt like running into a stranger with a familiar face. But as we walked toward the corner coffee shop to warm up, the years melted away. We talked about everything we had missed: his work as an architect, my chaotic deadlines at the design firm, the funny ways the city had changed but stayed the same. By the time we finished our coffee, snowflakes had started to drift lazily past the window. Daniel glanced outside and said, "Let me walk you home." Something inside me hesitated, but I agreed. That walk through the snowy streets changed everything. We laughed like we used to, slipping on patches of ice, talking about teachers we remembered, the dreams we once shared. But there was also a quietness between us, a space filled with what wasn't said. And in that silence I realized something. I had been coasting through life, convincing myself that I was fine. But with Daniel beside me, I felt awake again. When we reached my apartment building, I expected a simple goodbye. Instead, he paused and said, "Olivia, I don't want to let another 10 years go by without you in my life." Those words shook me. I wasn't expecting them, and I wasn't prepared for how deeply they landed. That night, after he left, I sat by my window, watching the snow fall. My heart was racing in a way it hadn't in years. For the first time, I admitted to myself that I wasn't fine. Not really. I had been lonely, going through the motions. And Daniel had reminded me of something I thought I'd lost: connection, possibility, and hope. In the weeks that followed, Daniel and I started meeting regularly. Sometimes it was for coffee, sometimes for long walks along the river. Slowly, I began to feel like myself again. Not the version who told the world she was fine, but the one who laughed easily, who dreamed boldly. Looking back now, I realized that night in February wasn't just a coincidence. It was the beginning of a chapter one didn't know I needed. I thought I was fine. But then that night changed me. Forever.